Most regions have native disasters that are more common than others. Hurricanes, for example, are more common in the Gulf Coast. Wildfires and earthquakes are more common, say, in California. So the best place to start is to identify what's the most common natural disaster in your area. If you live in an area that's prone to flooding, make sure you know what your property's elevation is and flood history. It's also important for you to know your area's evacuation routes. So there are some natural disasters, obviously, that you cannot predict, but things like hurricanes, if you live, say, in the Gulf Coast, you pretty much are going to get a heads up before it gets there.
We are closely monitoring Hurricane Laura, which intensified to a Category 2 storm overnight. With sustained winds near 105 miles per hour, it's expected to produce a life-threatening storm surge and flash flooding conditions as well. The storm is expected to hit Louisiana and eastern Texas hard later on today.
What I want you to do is, as soon as you can, contact your vet. If your dog is on medications, ask him if you could have an extra 1 month worth of medications for this emergency preparation. Also, make sure they can email you your dog or cat's medical records. Get yourself a Ziploc bag, put the medical records in there, and then go ahead and put it into your folder. It's gonna look something like that. And you have all your records in there, and they're also inside of the Ziploc. It is important to note that not all evacuation shelters are going to allow you to appear with your dog, and those that do are going to require that your dog's vaccines are up to date. So don't make things harder on yourself by showing up without medical records. If you haven't done so, make sure your dogs are microchipped. It is not infrequent that in the middle of a natural disaster, you and your pet can become separated. The chances of success of you finding your pet increases substantially if they've already been microchipped. Now, for those of you that live in states that are frequented by hurricanes and you're able to see it coming, and even if it's unfrequent, you're also able to see it coming, I strongly recommend that you find pet-friendly hotels and motels in neighboring states that are not as commonly affected by the same natural disaster. This gives you plenty of time to be able to load your pets into your vehicle and make your way in that direction. Other options consist of boarding facilities. For some reason you can't leave your property, then I strongly suggest that you make a list of transporters from your area that would be willing to go ahead and drive to the neighboring state and deliver your pet to the boarding facility. Now let me give you a quick little story on this. Originally, I'm from Miami, Florida, so I've seen my fair share of hurricanes. I learned from a very young age the best way to deal with pets and hurricanes is simply load them in the car and start heading in that direction early. In fact, we used to make a little mini vacation out of it. We would drive to Tennessee and we would stay in a pet-friendly hotel there, as we knew if the hurricane ever made it inland, it would lose a lot of its strength and it would blow over. Last thing you want to do is find yourself in an area where a hurricane has affected you, where there can possibly be flooding, and you could be with no water or electricity for about 2 weeks. I know what it's like. The next thing I'm going to tell you to have prepared is dog food. Now listen to me and listen carefully. Listen carefully.
Listen carefully.
I'm not a proponent of kibble, but in an emergency situation, it is an option.
Well, it is.
And so too is canned dog food. And it's for obvious reasons. They need no refrigeration. So I'm going to show you the most effective way that I would handle a situation like that using 2 5-gallon buckets.
Holy buckets. Slime bucket.
Check this out. First things first, fam, you got to go ahead and mark the cardinal directions. That way you know where you're going to be making a hole, and then go ahead and make another mark that's about 1/4 inch below it. Then you're going to need something to be able to cut the lid with. Now, I will be using my little Swiss Army knife, but you could use just about anything. Now, I'm going to make the first cut with the Swiss Army knife, and then I'm going to make more precision cuts to make it circular with scissors. Then I'm going to go ahead and make holes at 12, 6, 3, and 9 o'clock. And the reason for that is so we can secure it. Now, you got to make sure the holes, you're able to smooth them out. Otherwise, you cut your pet. Once you go ahead and make the extra holes in that 1/4 inch that I told you about, then you're going to go ahead and put a zip tie through in order to be able to secure it. Make sure to leave as little exposure possible to the tie wraps to where the dog will be eating. It should be nice and smooth. Now the next 5-gallon bucket is going to be for your water. Now keep in mind, you cannot close the lid if you're putting 1-gallon bottles in there. So the easiest way to fix this is simply go ahead and put your food bowl in there so that it is able to fit. When it's time to give your dog water, all you got to do is place it above, and you could also use that bowl in order to be able to get the kibble and pour it in. Now, because of the space you have inside, it's a great opportunity to go ahead and add NuJoint DS and NuVet Plus, along with anything else that you could fit in this area to include the dog's toy. If you're going to an area where you know you're going to have access to water, you would only need one of these bottles to get you there. Therefore, you would have all this space to be able to add the other supplies. In some instances, you might not be able to take your pet with you. If this is the case, and you know it beforehand, make sure to buy waterproof Pets Inside stickers. Put them in the front of the property and put them in the back. This way, when rescuers get to your area, they're able to identify that and they're able to go and check. One last thing.
Just one.
If you must leave your dog behind and you have an entrusted neighbor, friend, relative that will be staying behind, make sure you go over with them where your dog food is and where the water is so they can feed your dog when you're away. Next thing I want you to do is make sure you take an updated picture of your pet and make at least 20 copies. Make sure to bring your pet's favorite blankets. I recommend, if you can, bring as close as 2 weeks worth of dog food as possible. Also, in most vet clinics, they now have the engraver where you could actually make a little tag with your phone number engraved into that tag and on your dog's collar. You're also going to need, obviously, collars and leashes. I don't recommend a harness unless your dog is used to the harness and has been around many people. If you have a dog that is not used to overcrowding, how an emergency shelter can be, I would also recommend a muzzle. The other thing to get are stakes and tie-outs. These could be very beneficial, especially if you're in an overcrowded setting. If you're able to find a spot that you could actually stake this down and put your dog there, it could possibly lower your dog's anxiety. Also, he or she has the ability to relieve themselves when they need to, which then leads me to the next thing. Doggy poop bags. They're cheap, they're affordable. Make sure to take them with you. That way, the people at the shelter don't get mad at you. These are some other things I recommend you get. Pee pads, can opener if you're taking canned food, hand sanitizer, paper towels, trash bags, flashlight with batteries, and your dog's shampoo. Wait. How can I forget your dog's favorite toys? But please don't overdo it. Also, get over-the-counter medications such as Dramamine and Benadryl. Dramamine is used on humans for motion sickness, and it really helps out when you're transporting your dog in a vehicle that they're not used to. Keeps them from throwing up. Usually calms them down and makes them sleepy. The other place you may be able to use is, say, you're in a crowded shelter, in a high-stress area, and your dog starts getting anxious.
Hope you have a great trip. I'll just hang out here.
Ditch the drama llama of nausea with Dramamine.
I would recommend you also get Benadryl. Benadryl is good for any type of allergic reaction. Keep in mind you're going to be moving with your dog from his usual area. The fauna is not going to be the same. Anything could happen, even an insect bite that the dog is allergic to. Make sure before giving this or any other medication that you consult with your vet first to make sure it's not contraindicated to any other medication that your pet may be receiving.
Strike back with Benadryl. Relieves allergies more effectively than Claritin. You know the drill, Benadryl.
There's one other thing I got to tell you, and that is if you want information as far as dog nutrition, dog exercise, or dog anything, make sure to go ahead and click on this next video. It's been Raul from the Q, and I'll catch you over there.